The Bradley Fighting Vehicle, BFV, is a tracked armored fighting vehicle platform of the United States developed by FMC Corporation, and manufactured by BAE Systems Land and Armaments, formerly United Defense. The BMP-2 is an amphibious infantry fighting vehicle introduced in the 1980s in the Soviet Union, following on from the BMP-1 of the 1960s. Primary armaments. The Bradley is equipped with the 25mm M242 Bushmaster as its main weapon, accurate to 3000 m. The M242 is a single-barrel chain gun with an integrated dual-feed mechanism and remote feed selection. The cannon carries 300 rounds of ammunition in two ready boxes, one of 70 rounds, the other of 230 rounds, with an extra 600 rounds in storage for the M2 Infantry Fighting Vehicle variant, or 1,200 stowed rounds for the M3 Cavalry Fighting Vehicle variant. The two ready boxes allow a selectable mix of rounds, such as the M791 APDST, armor-piercing discarding sabot, with tracer, and M792 HEIT, high-explosive incendiary, with tracer rounds. The tungsten APDST rounds proved effective in Desert Storm, capable of knocking out many Iraqi vehicles, including several T-55 tanks. A few kills against Iraqi T-72 tanks at close range are reported. Subsequent ammunition developments resulted in the M919 APFSDST, armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding sabot, with tracer round containing a fin-depleted uranium penetrator similar in concept to armor-piercing munitions used in modern tanks. The BMP-2. The main armament is a turret with a stabilized 30mm 2A42 autocannon with dual ammunition feeds, which provide a choice of 3 UBR6 APT and 3 UOR6 HET, 3 UOF8 HEI ammunition ATGM. The gun has a selectable rate of fire, either slow at 200 to 300 rounds per minute or fast at 550 rounds per minute. This gives a continuous fire time of 100 to 150 seconds, or only 55 seconds, depending on the rate of fire chosen, before running out of ammo. The original stabilization provides reasonable accuracy up to a speed of about 35 km per hour. The APT ammunition can penetrate 15mm of armor at 60 degrees at 1,500 meters. A new APDST tungsten round can penetrate 25mm at the same distance. A typical ammunition load is 160 rounds of AP ammunition and 340 rounds of HE ammunition. The gun can be fired from either the commander's or the gunner's station. The commander's 1PZ-3 sight is specifically designed for anti-aircraft operation. Combined with the high maximum elevation of 74 degrees, it allows the 30mm cannon to be used effectively against helicopters and slow-flying aircraft. The cannon is normally only used on the slow rate of fire, otherwise, fumes from the weapon would build up in the turret faster than the extractor fan can remove them. The effective range of the 30mm cannon is up to 1,500 meters against armor, 4,000 meters against ground targets, and 2,500 meters against air targets. Secondary armaments. An M240C medium machine gun is mounted coaxially to the M242, with 2,200 rounds of 7.62 by 51mm ammunition. For engaging heavier targets, such as acting in an anti-tank fashion, the Bradley carries a TOW missile system. This was modified to fire TOW-2 missile from the M2A1 model onward. M2 infantry Bradleys have firing ports for M231 firing port weapons, FPWs, providing a means for the occupants to fire from within the vehicle and replacing the topside gunners on the M113, based armored cavalry assault vehicles, although the M231 is rarely employed. The Bradley holds a crew of 3, a commander, a gunner, and a driver, along with 6 fully equipped soldiers. A coaxial 7.62mm PKT machine gun is mounted to the left of the 30mm cannon. 2,000 rounds of ammunition are carried for it. On the roof of the turret is an ATGM launcher. On Russian vehicles this fires 9 M113 Konkurs missiles. A ground mount for the missile is carried, allowing it to be used away from the vehicle. Behind the turret is the troop compartment that holds 6 troops. A 7th sits just behind the driver. The troops sit back to back, along the canter of the vehicle. Down each side of the compartment are 3 firing ports with periscopes. Access to the compartment is by the 2 rear doors, which hold fuel tanks. Countermeasures. The use of aluminium armor, and the storage of large quantities of ammunition in the vehicle initially raised questions about its combat survivability. Spaced laminate belts and high-hardness steel skirts have been added to improve the side protection of later versions, while overall weight was increased to 33 tons. All versions are equipped with 2 4-barreled smoke grenade launchers on the front of the turret for creating defensive smoke screens, which can also be loaded with chaff and flares. Bradley Urban Survival Kit. The Bradley Urban Survival Kit, BUSK, is an upgrade similar to the M1 Abrams Tusk kit. It decreases the vulnerability of Bradleys in urban environments. The kit includes a more powerful spotlight, a wire mesh protector to keep the optics from getting scratched, and non-conductive arched strips of nylon that push away fallen electrical wires, power line protection that would endanger crews, additional armor on the underside, and a bullet-resistant transparent shield for the commander outside the turret. The BUSK kit adds 3 tons to the vehicle's weight. Because of this, additional upgrades included a stronger, 800 horsepower engine, a larger main gun, lighter armor, improved sensors and cameras to give a 360 degrees view outside, and an improved fire extinguisher system. This system was supposed to enter service in 2012, but the Bradley became too heavy and the kit did not make it survivable enough. A newer Busk 3 kit is now available for Bradleys, incorporating a blast-proof fuel cell, a blast-resistant driver seat, a turret survivability system, and an emergency ramp release. This kit was recently installed on 236 M2A3 Bradleys in South Korea, and is scheduled next to be added to Bradleys of the 4th Infantry Division. The original BMP-1 had a vulnerability in its mine protection scheme. This shortcoming was addressed in the BMP-2 design, where the tank commander shares the well-armored two-man turret with the gunner. The driver's station has been enlarged and he is provided with an armored driver's seat, in addition to extra belly armor in the lower front. The BMP-2's armor is broadly similar to the original BMP-1. Its side armor is effective against the most recent .50 caliber sabot light armor penetrator, and the front armor against the 25mm cannon of the US M2 Bradley MICV, or the British GKN Warrior IFV's 30mm Radon. Like the BMP-1, the rear doors of the BMP-2 are filled with diesel fuel, which may present some risk from incendiary rounds. These additional fuel tanks are used only during transport from area to area and are typically drained before entering combat. The basic hull armor on the BMP-2 can be easily penetrated by any shaped charge missile, from the 66mm LAW on up. One important modification carried out as the result of operational experience in Afghanistan was the fitting of a second layer of standoff armor, usually a high-resistant ballistic rubber-like material, to act as spaced armor around the top of the hull sides and around the attack. The BMP-2's hull provides all-around protection from 7.62mm armor-piercing rounds at 30 meters, while the front can withstand several hits from 23mm armor-piercing shells. The IFV lacks the ability to install add-on protection packages like slat armor cages or explosive reactive armor, ERA. Propulsion. The Bradley is highly capable in cross-country open terrain, in accordance with one of the main design objectives of keeping pace with the M1 Abrams main battle tank. The Bradley was initially designed to float by deploying a flotation curtain around the vehicle, allowing it to swim. Later armor upgrades have negated this capability. The BMP-1 and BMP-2 share the same chassis and have almost identical road performance. The BMP-2 is heavier, but also has a more powerful engine to compensate. The BMP-2 is amphibious with little preparation, using hydrodynamic fairings to convert track momentum into water jets. Peacetime regulations require that any BMPs entering water must have a working radio set. Since its bearings are not airtight and it can be carried away by currents in case of loss of engine power, the vehicle lacks an anchor. Combat history. The Bradley fighting vehicle has had mixed performance in the wars and conflicts in which it has been used. During the Gulf War in 1991, Bradleys were used extensively by the US Army as part of the armored thrust into Iraq. They performed well in the fast-moving armored battles, providing infantry support and reconnaissance. They were also able to successfully engage and destroy Iraqi tanks and other armored vehicles. However, some Bradleys were also destroyed or damaged by enemy fire. In the invasion of Iraq in 2003 and the subsequent occupation of the country, Bradleys were also used extensively. They were able to provide protection and fire support for troops and successfully engage and destroy enemy targets. However, they were also vulnerable to improvised explosive devices, IEDs, and other forms of asymmetric warfare tactics used by the insurgents. In Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, Bradleys were primarily used for reconnaissance and troop transport. They have been less involved in direct combat, but have still been targeted by IEDs and ambushes. Overall, the Bradley fighting vehicle has been an effective armored fighting vehicle for the US Army, providing infantry support, reconnaissance, and protection for troops. However, as with any armored vehicle, it is vulnerable to certain types of attacks, such as IEDs, and has not been immune to losses. The BMP-2 has seen action in a variety of conflicts and has generally performed well in combat. Its amphibious capabilities and high mobility have made it a useful vehicle for crossing difficult terrain and for transporting troops quickly. During the Soviet-Afghan War, the BMP-2 was used primarily as a transport vehicle, but it was also used in combat. The rugged terrain of Afghanistan proved to be a challenge for the BMP-2, but it was able to navigate the mountains and valleys effectively. In the Gulf War, the BMP-2 was used by the Iraqi army. However, most of the vehicles were destroyed by coalition airstrikes before they could be used in combat. In the war in Afghanistan and the Iraq War, the BMP-2 was used by both coalition forces and the Taliban insurgents. The vehicle has proven to be a valuable asset in urban and rural combat, but the insurgents have been able to destroy the BMP-2 with improvised explosive devices, IEDs, and rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs. Overall, the BMP-2 has been a valuable asset in combat, but it is vulnerable to anti-tank weapons and improvised explosive devices. Layout. The layout of the Bradley fighting vehicle, BFV, is designed to transport infantry to the battlefield and provide fire support for dismounting troops. The vehicle has a two-man crew, the driver sits at the front of the vehicle, and the commander sits in the rear. The infantry troops are seated in the middle of the vehicle, facing outwards. The vehicle can carry up to 6 or 7 soldiers, depending on the variant. The layout of the BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicle is designed to transport a squad of soldiers and to provide them with protection and firepower. The vehicle is divided into 3 main compartments: the driver's compartment, the troop compartment, and the fighting compartment. The troop compartment is located in the middle of the vehicle and is designed to accommodate a squad of soldiers. The troops enter and exit the vehicle through 2 doors located at the rear of the compartment. Variants. Current operators.